On Celtic, Keith, Mark says in the comments, the biggest window in Celtic's history this summer. It's hard to disagree with that. They need the bulk of a new team, a new manager, new sporting director, and it's a World Cup year.
Certainly this side of the millennium, it's hard to think of a summer which will require more work, or has required more work than what will be required at the end of this season. And you've got to hope from a Celtic perspective that there are people inside the building right now who are fully aware of this and starting to do some preparation work for it. Because, it can't just be a case of Martin O'Neill leaves at the end of the season, turns off the light behind him, and that's it. There has to be people behind the scenes in there that are doing the planning work. And I don't know who that would be. That's a concern in itself. Unless Celtic have worked behind the scenes and they've been really professional for the first time in a long time, and they've actually identified the manager, they've been having talks with the manager, and the incoming manager has identified 5, 6, 7 players that he'd like to see coming in the way, that would be really professional. Does that sound like this version of Celtic? It doesn't. No. So that's what I'm saying. I think that there's so much work required to be done at Celtic this summer that it could possibly have a very long-term impact. And Rangers will feel that they've done that sort of heavy lifting. And they got a lot of it done. They've got a lot of it done since the new owners came in. Celtic fans will probably look at it and think they need something similar right now. Aye. A complete recalibration, a restart, and a potential takeover into the bargain.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut over you there, Keith. I was going to say, Rebel says in the comments, Mick, Martin O'Neill might stay next season, never say never. Based on absolutely nothing, I kind of have that feeling as well, just purely because there's so much needs done that maybe it makes sense to maybe start with keep the management team for one more season that's already in situ, no?
What are you trying to do? The poor man. I think Martin O'Neill should put on a luxury cruise liner and give him a 12-month round the globe pass, all inclusive, gold plated, all inclusive. A Skippy pass for the buffet, you name it. I think he should get the full works and enjoy himself after this year. I actually said to him on Sunday, so you get a full week's training after the first time since you come back. You're looking forward to it. He's like, we're off till Wednesday. I'm not even going to. I don't even want to be near the place for a few days. It needs a break. Listen, I think the summer. Listen, we're going to be talking about that for the next few months because Celtic have got a massive summer. They've done it before, right enough. I mean, Ange Postecoglou's first summer, he brought in 7 new starters in the first window, and another couple in the January. So we brought in Joe Hart.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike.
Makic, Juranovic, Carter Vickers, Jota, all came in the first window. Starfelt, and then in the January they brought in Maida and Hatate. So he done nine new starters, pretty much Abada. 9 starters in basically 2 windows and won the league for 2 years in a row on the back of it. So it can be done, but you have to have Celtic's hit rate in the transfer market is now in about 1 in every 20. But back then it was about 11 out of 15 back then. So I've got a heck of a lot of work, but they've got a heck of a lot of work to get back in this title race. And they've got a heck of a big game at the weekend. They've got Muller at the weekend.
Aye.
Who bust a lot of coupons on Saturday. And they're going to be without key men. I mean, Callum McGregor, I think now looks like he's going to miss a few weeks at best. I don't think he's going to come back. He's not back at the weekend. So, and you've seen how big a miss he was at Ibrox on Sunday, having played so well the previous week, in the second half in particular. So he's going to be a colossal miss. But the sound of things, I think he's going to miss a decent. An international break might help Celtic in that respect, give him an extra couple of weeks to recover. But I think it might be a few weeks before you see him again.
I think that's a hammer blow for Celtic's chance.
Well, really big. If at all, if it's the same injury he had, his Achilles, that's not a tear or a kind of or impact injury. That's a kind of wearing.
Rest is required. Yeah.
And if it's got to a point he couldn't play in a cup quarter final at Ibrox, you think this must be. And this is a guy who was it 2 seasons ago he was carrying an injury and he was taking injections and he refused to kind of succumb to it. So it's a big blow. If it is to the end of the season, it's a colossal blow for Celtic. There's no getting away from that because there's nobody in there that showed that it can go anywhere near lacing Callum McGregor's boots. Never mind replacing them.
The upshot of yesterday's game, guys, is of course Celtic are in the semi-finals. They were drawn last night to play St Mirren. Last night on the show, one of us went for St Mirren to get through. One of us went for Partick Thistle.
I know I only get 3 out of 4, right? So
I know you couldn't
you
resist
get one.
that. I got it.
Yeah.
I got my St Mirren one. I'm happy with
And
that.
I tell you, I might throw another wee prediction at you.
for
Martin
it.
O'Neill versus Neil Lennon in the
Yes.
final day of the season, the
I mean,
Scottish Cup
that
final.
would be remarkable.
Wouldn't it just be perfectly in keeping with this incredible season of craziness that we've had? Martin O'Neill Celtic versus Neil Lennon's Dunfermline in the Scottish Cup final. You just
I know-
wouldn't bet against it.
I know Celtic will be favourites, obviously, but I don't think it's a given that Celtic are going to win this. I mean, Falkirk collectively are a brilliant team this season. The Neil Lennon, I mean, it's not going to be easy, Mick, for Celtic.
You've
Listen,
dismissed St Mirren. Let's see.
listen,
St Mirren as well. Don't get me wrong.
St Mirren, who gave Celtic an absolute blow and torrid time in the cup final, the League Cup final to win the League Cup, and you've got Falkirk who had 2 games against Celtic and were absolutely robbed on both occasions, having bossed the game against Celtic twice,
Yeah.
You're
home and
right.
away, and walked away with nothing inexplicably. So very much it's not a given, very much so. When
St Mirren going for the second cup as well. Imagine
What?
we had a season where St Mirren won both domestic cups and Hearts won the league. I mean, that'd be pretty mad.
St Mirren could get
And
relegated.
St Mirren get relegated, yeah.
It's a good point, aye.
It is a kind of Alice in Wonderland season, isn't it? We've all have done.
Yeah.
We've tumbled down the rabbit hole this year, so anything could happen from here on in. But it's, there's a few stories to come. I mean, it's not a lineup you probably would have predicted at the start, but listen, Falkirk have been they've kind of got a wee bit of credit, but I think Motherwell's kind of displays have kind of taken away. But it's Falkirk's displays this season, the way they play. I mean, I watched the last closing bit of the game the other night, how they dominated the ball and just seen it out. It was just like a proper team, proper football team. It's not about Danny Rose, 80s revival. I mean, Falkirk are opposite.
By the way, Mick, you're absolutely right. If it wasn't for what Motherwell are doing, I think that there would be far much more attention on the way that Falkirk are going about their business. I watched them in the first game of the season against Dundee United, and I think I'd already tipped them before that right enough to get a top 6 finish this season, because you just knew that they were going to come up and they were going to play the game their way. They weren't going to feel intimidated by playing in the Premiership. And they have been phenomenal, a great addition. And because of what Hearts are doing, because of what Motherwell are doing, it's kind of their stories kind of almost went untold. But here they are, still standing in the last 4 for the Scottish Cup. Maybe the story's not been written yet.
Yeah.